Creating a mosaic in PixInsight is frankly a little bit more complicated than I thought it would have to be, but I'm going to show you everything you need to know in order to successfully create a seamless mosaic in PixInsight. I have two panels here. We're just going to do a very simple 2-panel mosaic, but the process is pretty much the same whether you do 2, 4, 8, 500, how many panels you have. So here I have 2 panels. This is of course of the Eastern and Western Veil Nebula, and you can kind of see I can kind of, well, they should kind of be like that when they're done. In terms of what point in your process you should do it, you should do the mosaic right after you are done stacking. So before you stretch, and if you are running monochrome data, as I am here, you should do it before you do the color combination. So you should do each individual channel, if you're doing mono, each individual channel should be mosaiced separately, and then you do the channel combination afterwards, and then you do your stretching and all that. If you're running with a one-shot color, then obviously you just have your color channel. But if you're planning to apply like a luminance channel or something to it, then do those separately as well. Good. So step number 1 is we need to make sure that we eliminate any gradients that are in the picture. So if there's any like light pollution, any kind of that's going to mess up our mosaic. So we're going to make sure we get rid of that. I already have a separate tutorial on how to do background extraction. So if you want to dive more into that, go and find my PixInsight playlist and find the background extraction video, as I've already covered that. For now, we are just going to open up the automatic background extractor, and we're going to be using that today. I've already set this up. I use the default parameters. The only thing I do is I go down to target image correction and just set that to subtraction instead of none. And then we're just going to take this and drag it onto the first. There we go. We get 2 images. We get the newly corrected one, and we also get we stretch this, we get a background model. We don't need that. We can put that away and remove the old one. And we can repeat this for this one. Even if you can't see a gradient, just do it, run the automatic even if you can't see it, just to make sure that they are flat as can be. The next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that all the images in our mosaic has the same like base level. They kind of have the same light levels, if you will. And we can check that quite easily by going over here to process, and we're gonna find the one just called statistics. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our windows one at a time, and we're going to look here at the mean value. You can see this one sits at around 8 times 10 to the minus third. And if I take my 2, this is way off, right? This is almost a factor of 10. So this image over here is a factor of 10 less bright than the image over here. Now, this is quite an extreme case, and also a manufactured case I've done for this video, and I might have overdone it a little bit, but but if those levels, we need to make sure those are the same, right? There are multiple ways you can do it. You can just use the one called linear fit. Again, you can go over here, we can search for linear fit. And what we could then do is we could take one of these images. Let's say we take the first one, it's already selected, but if you want to use, let's say we want to use the second one, we drag it down like so, or we drag the first one, choose one of them, and then you run it over on the other one. What it will then do is it will try to align up these images. However, what I find is the linear fit, if you have extreme cases, sometimes it just bugs out, okay? If they're relatively close and these values are pretty close to each other, then you can just use the linear fit. So I have 1, 1 here, so I would drag this over on 1, 2, right? For me, that's going to completely mess up the image, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to do this process manually. You look at these 2 and you find the one with the highest value in the mean. So for our case, between these 2, we had one that was to the minus third, and we had one that's to the minus fourth. So minus third is what we're aiming for here. So we're looking for something just shy of 8 times 10 to the minus third for the mean value of the image. Okay, so we know we now need to make a change to 1, 2. So we're going to take 1, 1 and get that out of the way for now, because we don't really need this right now. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to find histogram transformation. Let's open that up. And for our view, we're going to click here on a real-time preview. That's going to open up a real-time preview. Let's just reset this. I was playing around with this earlier. There we go. Now we have a real-time preview, so we can see what we're doing. We can select the 2 that we're here, if you want to, you don't really need to. But what you want to do over here in statistics is you want to now select your real-time preview. Okay. So keep this down here. Let's make this a little smaller. There, good. Now we can see our image over here. And this is of course on an auto stretch. So we're just gonna, or a screen transfer function, just gonna clear that. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this center point here, and we're actually going to begin to apply a small amount of stretching. And again, because I've overcooked this quite a bit for this tutorial here, we're going to have to actually do quite a bit of stretching. But what we're looking for here is look down on the statistics. You can see now how it is slowly, ever so slowly, that number there is rising, that mean value is rising. So we're going to try to get it as close as we can. See, now that we did it, we went too far. Around there is pretty close. And for the final fine tuning, we can try to just sit and play around with the numbers here manually. There. Okay, that's pretty close to what the other one was. We can just compare the numbers here. So 1 was 796, and this one now is 794. So that's close enough for me. I like that. So we can go ahead and we can apply this. Now we can close down our screen transfer function. We can close down our real-time view, or real-time preview. Open these up again. Add an auto stretch to that one. And now if we look at these, we can just verify here that these two are now pretty much identical in terms of their mean value. So that's very good. That means now we've balanced them out. This is exactly, or essentially this is what the linear fit does. I think it doesn't necessarily stretch, it just shifts the data up and down instead of actually stretching it. I find that this also works if you have these extreme variants, but as I said, try to use the linear fit first, and if it gives you a good result, then use it. If it messes up your image completely, you won't be in doubt if it does, then try to use this method. The next thing we need to do is we now actually need to begin to create our mosaic. And we're going to be using a script up here. So we go to scripts, we go to mosaic, and we go to mosaic by coordinates. In here, you can save these to files, or I usually just go and add windows and just add the 2 windows. In my case, it's 2. If you have 4 panels, you use 4. You add all your panels in here, and we click OK. Now, normally all this would be deselected. I recommend you go in and play with the projection. I think Mercator projections is the default. You can play around with it. If you begin to see your stars looking like elongated after the after you've made the mosaic, you stitched them together, then try to go back to this step and change to another one. But I'm just going to choose the top one there to start with. Now, if I click OK now, look over here in the command window, and you will see that this script is going to fail. And it's going to fail because you can see here that it can't find any coordinates. And that's because there's no like astrometric data in these images right now. That doesn't, the mosaic tool doesn't know where these images are in the night sky. So we're going to tell it that, or well, we're going to ask PixInsight to figure it out for us, and we're going to do that again over here, and we're going to find the image solver there. There's the image solver. Drag the image solver onto the first image, and this is going to take a while depending on your computer. So be patient and go grab a cup of coffee. And you're just going to repeat this for all your frames. So once it's done with the first frame, you just go in, find the image solver, drag it onto the next one. And you just keep doing that until you're done with all your frames. And by the power of video editing, both of these have now been plate solved. We can go back up into script, mosaic by coordinates, and let's try again. And lo and behold, will you look at that? Now it is actually running. So once again, we're going to be patient and wait for the script to finish. Okay, once that's done, we're going to get 2 new windows. And if we just go ahead and just get rid of these old ones here, because we're going to put those out here to the side, because now it actually gets quite exciting. So here we go. If we're going to put an auto stretch on these, you can see that now we have the 2 panels, and they have now been placed where they need to be. And you're going to see that I kind of messed up the placement of my panels here, but never mind that. Don't look at that. But if we take and overlap these 2 here, look at this. There. You can see how they perfectly overlap with the nebulosity there. That means those are now ready to be stitched together, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have to save these. So you can either go Files and Save As, or you can just click Control-Shift-S. When you're saving these, make sure you save them as XIF data. So XISF data. And we're just going to save those like so. So in order to stitch those two together, we're going to go up to Process. We're going to go to Gradient Domain. And we're going to go Gradient Merge Mosaic. In here, we're going to click Add Files, and we're going to add our two new files that we just created. In terms of the parameters, you can either go average or overlay. I prefer average, but it's just basically is one just going to overlay the other, or they're just going to average out the two pictures, so you kind of actually get the nebulosity from both of them averaged together, and also reduces noise in that area a little bit. Usually average is fine. When it comes to these setting with the shrink radius and the feather radius, it kind of depends on how much overlap you have, right? So I have a decent amount of overlap between my two images, but again, mine are completely skewed. So it's difficult because some places I'll have a huge amount of overlaps and other places I have nothing, right? The shrink radius basically just cuts around the perimeter of the image. So if we take an image here, it just takes a 5 pixel radius all the way around and cuts out. And that's because often what you can find in your images is that the edge will have quite a bit of noise if you haven't cropped them in already. If you have cropped them already, you might not have to do this, but often it's a good idea just to put like a little bit in here, just so it crops it in like by a few pixels, just to get rid of any noise that might be on the edge, or any noise on the edge you might have introduced in the processing we've done already. So it's a good idea just to crop that in a little bit so that we don't have issues with that. The feather radius is just where the edge, where the seam is going to be. It's going to make a slow transition from one image over to the other. The larger you put your feather radius, the longer that the longer that transition is going to be. So if you're having trouble with the line being visible, you might want to try and increase the feather radius. On the other hand, if you actually see two lines, that might mean where the edge of both images, then that might indicate that your feather radius is too large. Play around with this, right? If you begin to see a seam, then it's likely you can get rid of it by playing around with the feather radius. I think its default is 10 pixels, which is way low. I go to 100 and I think it gives a better result. Okay, so we've selected our two images and they have been placed correctly in the image where they need to be placed, and we've set our settings, and we can now go ahead and execute this. Let's go ahead and let's see what our final result looks like here. So let's apply an auto stretch, and there we have it. That's pretty much it. Let's just open up one of them so we can see where the seam. So there should be a seam just shy of this blob, and it has this blob. We can probably actually see the line, right? You can see it should be there. And I don't know about you, but I can't really see a line anywhere. I think we got a pretty good merge between these two frames. And in the similar, we can look for the line up here if we can see that. I don't know about you, but I can't. So I think we got a perfect merge between these two. So the last thing to do, of course, in my case, because one of the frames was completely skew and I completely messed this up, but we can save some of it by doing a dynamic crop of this. So we're just gonna draw like a box and then say, okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna rotate this so it maybe lines up with that edge over there. That's probably fine. I kind of like that. Let's go with that. Boom. You just need to remember, of course, as we're doing this for multiple channels, do a similar crop between them because we're going to be stacking these later. Or maybe wait with the crop until you've done the stack of the different color channels, so you have as much room to play with when it comes to actually cropping in. But for now that we're just doing one channel in this video, you can see we now have our two images merged together into one. We can save this, and we can now repeat this for all our different channels, and then we can do the color combination and then do our normal workflow from there as if there were just one image. I hope you found this useful. If you did, remember I have a ton more PixInsight and Cyril tutorials in my playlist on this channel, and there are definitely more to come as well. So stay tuned, get subscribed if you want that. And also, if you want to support this channel, there's plenty of ways you can do it. You can get merch at deepspacebook.com. There's a link in the description. You can become a member of the channel. and supporting directly that way, or you can just give this video a like or maybe even subscribe. That will help me out as well. If you've been using the background extractor in Cyril or in Graxpert, then you'll be very familiar with what we're going to be doing here in a second. Because, now, as I said, all of these tools are distinct different tools within the tool. So let's say, for instance, we wanted to work with, we're just going to take one here,